unconstitutional witch hunt. It's election interference at the highest level. It's a disgrace. It's in coordination with the White House and Joe Biden because he can't win a campaign fairly. And we're going through it, but it is indeed a terrible witch hunt. We're going to have a news conference a little bit later on. As you know, I want to speak. I want to make the summation. At this moment, the judge is not letting me make the summation because I'll bring up things that he doesn't want to hear. And it's a very unfair trial. Nobody's seen anything like this. I don't think they've ever seen anything like this. We have a situation where a statute was used that doesn't give me a jury, so I have no jury. I really have no rights, and it's and nobody thinks it's constitutional. People, legal scholars are writing about it like it's something they've never seen before. So it's interference, it's political interference, and it's something that shouldn't be allowed. So I am hoping to speak and to help my lawyers reveal all of the defects of this case. It should have never been brought. Very, very strong financial statements. They thought it was the opposite. They had no idea because I'm a private company. Then they saw them knock their socks off. They couldn't believe it. But great financial statements. Everything is good. We have a level of detail in our defense that nobody's ever had. This is a case that should have never been brought, and it was brought. And it's very unfair, and it's very bad for New York State. Companies are fleeing. People are fleeing. The streets are crime-ridden. And Letitia James, that's all she thinks about is get Trump. She's been dreaming about it for years, and it's, you know, it's not the way a state should be run, because this is a state that's been in big trouble. You have all the businesses fleeing, and you have the people fleeing. The people that pay taxes, people that don't pay taxes are coming in, so that's not what you want. So I want to thank you. We're going to have a news conference today around, we don't know the time, we'll notify you, but sometime in the early afternoon at 40 Wall Street. So we'll give a news conference where we can actually speak and have a microphone here, because even that they don't want us to have. They really don't want us to speak too much. So we'll see whether or not the judge allows me to speak. Perhaps he won't, but I certainly would like to. Thank you very much.
Closing arguments begin in Donald Trump's civil fraud trial in New York after bomb threat. Donald Trump's New York civil fraud trial is back in session Thursday for closing arguments, hours after authorities responded to a bomb threat at the home of the judge. The early morning police response to the Long Island home of Judge Arthur Engoron didn't delay the trial. Trump arrived on time, declaring anew that it all was a witch hunt and election interference at the highest level. The leading contender for the Republican presidential nomination, Trump, has repeatedly dispatched the judge in the case, accusing him in a social media post Wednesday night of working closely with the New York Attorney General to screw me. At 5:30 a.m. on Thursday, hours before the trial's final day was set to begin, Nassau County Police said they responded to a swatting incident at the judge's home in Great Neck Home. Nothing amiss was found at the location, officials said. The false report comes days after a fake emergency call reporting a shooting at the home of the judge overseeing Trump's Capitol attack criminal case in Washington, D.C. The two incidents follow a spate of similar false reports at the homes of public officials in recent days. On Wednesday, Engoron had nixed an unusual plan by Trump to deliver his own closing remarks in the courtroom, in addition to the summations from his legal team, after lawyers for the former president would not agree to the judge's demand that he stick to relevant matters. That will leave the last words to the lawyers in a trial over allegations that Trump exaggerated his wealth on financial statements he provided to banks, insurance companies, and others. Trump said as he entered the courtroom that he was still hoping he would be allowed to speak. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat, wants the judge to impose $370 million in penalties. Trump says he did nothing wrong, didn't lie about his fortune, and is the victim of political persecution. The former president had hoped to make that argument personally, but the judge, initially open to the idea, said no after a Trump lawyer missed a deadline for agreeing to ground rules. Among them, Engoron warned that Trump couldn't use his closing remarks to deliver a campaign speech or use the opportunity to impugn the judge and his staff. Trump is still expected to be in court as a spectator, despite the death of his mother-in-law, Amalija Navs, and the launch of the presidential primary season Monday with the Iowa caucus. Since the trial began October 2nd, 2023, Trump had gone to court 9 times to observe, testify, and complain to TV cameras about the case, which he called a witch hunt and a disgrace. He clashed with Engoron and state lawyers during 3.5 hours on the witness stand in November and remains under a limited gag order after making a disparaging and false social media post about the judge's law clerk. Thursday's arguments are part of a busy legal and political stretch for Trump. On Tuesday, he was in court in Washington, D.C. to watch appeals court arguments over whether he is immune from prosecution on charges that he plotted to overturn the 2020 election, one of 4 criminal cases against him. Trump has pleaded not guilty. James sued Trump in 2022 under a state law that gives the state attorney general broad power to investigate allegations of persistent fraud in business dealings. Engoron decided some of the key issues before testimony began. In a pre-trial ruling, he found that Trump had committed years of fraud by lying about his riches on financial statements, with tricks like claiming his Trump Tower penthouse was nearly 3 times its actual size, or valuing his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida at more than $612 million, based on the idea that the property could be developed for residential use, when he had signed an agreement surrendering rights to develop it for any uses but a club. The trial involved 6 undecided claims, including allegations of conspiracy, insurance fraud, and falsifying business records. Trump's company and 2 of his sons, Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., are also defendants. Besides monetary damages, James wants Trump and his co-defendants barred from doing business in New York. State lawyers say that by making himself seem richer, Trump qualified for better loan terms from banks, saving him at least $168 million. Trump contends his financial statement actually understated his net worth. He said the outside accountant that helped prepare the statement should have flagged any discrepancies and that the document came with disclaimers that shield him from liability. Engoron said he is deciding the case because neither side asked for a jury and state law doesn't allow for juries for this type of lawsuit. He said he hopes to have a decision by the end of the month. Last month, in a ruling denying a defense bid for an early verdict, the judge signaled he is inclined to find Trump and his co-defendants liable on at least some claims. Valuations, as elucidated ad nauseum in this trial, can be based on different criteria analyzed in different ways. Engoron wrote in the December 18 ruling, but a lie is still a lie.